Hey there folks, my name is Mary Cristelli and I am the manager of PCC Wellness and Recreation, and today we're going to talk about staying physically active in the winter or during the cold months, particularly when it is cold outside. So this may come as no surprise to you, but hopefully it provides some reassurance. Many people reduce their physical activity levels and exercise during the winter. The shorter days, cooler temperatures, sometimes even downright cold temperatures, days with rain or snow, and icy sidewalks, trails, and roads definitely interfere with our established routines and plans to get some movement in. It's important to stay active in the ways that you can. Adults should be getting 30 minutes of exercise at least 5 days a week, and children and teens should be getting about 60 minutes of exercise at least 5 days a week. Now, that 30 minutes or 60 minutes, depending on the age of the person, doesn't all have to be at once. If that doesn't fit into your schedule, you can break it up into increments. So for example, 10 to 15 minute time periods broken up throughout the day, just whatever works best with your schedule, as long as you're getting that 30 minutes in at least 5 days a week if you are an adult, and at least an hour in if it's a child or a teen. Now, what you do during those times is entirely up to you, and it's based entirely upon what your interests are and the activities that fit best into your lifestyle. If it's too cold, snowy, rainy, icy, and or dark to head outside, check out YouTube or Amazon Prime if you have it for a workout video. There are so many options available online that it can be kind of overwhelming, but there's definitely something out there for everyone. Keep in mind that PCC Wellness and Rec has its own YouTube channel with at-home workout videos. You could also check out an exercise app. There are lots of options, some of which are free, like Nike Plus Training Club, Kinetic Coach, and the 7-Minute Workout app. Another indoor option, although less exciting and fun, is to do some active housework like vacuuming, sweeping, and mopping your floors and wiping down the baseboards. Maybe even do some organizing that requires you to move things around. If the weather permits and you're wanting to get outdoors, go for a walk or a run, head out for a bike ride, or go skateboarding or longboarding if you have that equipment. Go to a schoolyard or park and play with the family, shoot hoops, throw around a ball, kick around a soccer ball, anything like that that you can do at a playground or a park. Build a snowman or an igloo if it's snowy. Take advantage of the outdoor recreation that we have nearby and go for a hike at the Pueblo Mountain Park and Environmental Center in Beulah, or check out the different trails that are out at the Pueblo Reservoir. Even head down on the Front Range Trail along the Arkansas River. You could go up towards San Isabel for a day of sledding. If you have the equipment for it, you could go snowshoeing, or even check out Monarch Mountain or Wolf Creek Pass ski areas for a day of skiing or snowboarding. If you do want to head outside, despite the cold temps or precipitation, make sure to stay safe and warm. A key piece is to stay hydrated. Now, a lot of us don't necessarily associate cold weather with dehydration quite in the same way that we do hot weather, so we're less likely to drink enough water. Although you may not sweat as much in cold weather, your body is still losing moisture when you breathe, when you use the bathroom, and when you're sweating, even if it's not as much as you would when you're really hot. Make sure that you drink plenty of water throughout the day by carrying a water bottle with you, scheduling it in to drink a certain amount by a specific time rather than relying on thirst as your cue to drink, and finding water options that you enjoy. Try warm or hot water if you don't have a desire to drink cold water. Drink non-caffeinated herbal hot tea. Put some lemon, lime, or orange slices into cold or hot water to add a little flavor. My personal favorite is hot lemon water, but you find whatever works best for you. Know the signs and symptoms of frostbite and hypothermia. So frostbite is an injury caused to the skin when the skin and the tissues just below it freeze. Most commonly affects our fingers, toes, cheeks, nose, ears, and chin because those areas of the body are most frequently exposed in cold and windy weather. Although any exposed skin in these cold and windy conditions is actually at risk of becoming frostbitten. The signs of frostbite look like cold skin and prickling feet at first, then numbness, red, white, bluish white, and grayish yellow skin, waxy or hard skin, muscle and joint stiffness that can cause clumsiness, and in severe cases, blistering to the skin after you warm back up. Seek medical attention if you suspect that you have any frostbite. Protect yourself from frostbite by limiting the amount of time that you spend outside when it is cold, really windy, or there's some sort of precipitation like rain, sleet, or snow. Covering up as much exposed skin as you possibly can, including wearing a hat or a headband that completely covers your ears, keeping your feet and your hands and your feet covered and warm and dry as well. And then the last thing would be to dress in loose-fitting, warm layers, and we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail in a bit. Hypothermia is a condition where the body loses heat faster than it can produce heat, causing a significant drop in your body's temperature. This can be extremely dangerous because a drop in body temperature interferes with the ability of your heart, nervous system, and organs to work. If you suspect someone you are outdoors with has hypothermia, call 911, gently move them inside and remove any wet clothing and replace it with warm, dry clothing, coats, or blankets. Knowing the signs and symptoms of hypothermia can help protect you and your loved ones should you find yourselves in a situation where it is likely to occur. We call these the umbles of hypothermia: stumbles, loss of control over movement, stiffness in the arms and legs, or slow movements; the mumbles, slurred, slow, or incoherent speech, sleepiness, or confusion; the fumbles, poor coordination, dropping things, and slow reaction time; and the grumbles, a negative attitude or a change in behavior. Protect yourself from hypothermia by 1, staying as dry as possible, taking extra care to keep your hands and feet dry, and changing out of wet clothing as soon as you possibly can. 2, avoiding activities that cause you to sweat a lot. 3, covering commonly exposed areas like your head, hands, face, feet, and neck. And 4, wearing loose fitting layers. So when we're talking about those different layers that we wear when we're outdoors, we're looking at 3 different layers. First, we've got a base layer, which is going to be right next to the skin, and this is going to wick moisture away from our body to help keep our skin dry. Then we have our middle layer, and its main job is to help keep our body temperature regulated and keep us warm, sort of an insulation type layer. And then we have our outermost layer, which is going to protect us from the weather. So I have a variety of layers here. I've got all 3 different layers and a variety of different options that we're going to go through. So let's go ahead and start by looking at our base layer. So when we're talking about a base layer, again, this layer is going to be right next to our skin, and we want it to pull the moisture, any sweat that we have coming off of our body, off of our skin to help keep our skin dry. Because if our skin is wet and our clothes are wet, then our body temperature is going to drop. So when we're looking at base layers, we want stuff that's made out of wool or polyester, avoiding cotton at all costs, because what cotton ends up doing is cotton pulls the moisture off our body, but it holds it into it and makes our clothes wet. And if our clothes are wet, then when we stop our movement, what ends up happening is those wet clothes sitting up against our skin end up making us feel much colder. So we want stuff, again, wool, polyester, even some sort of blend with spandex to help pull that moisture off of our body, and then these layers will dry quicker. There are lots and lots of options out there. Super fancy options, and everyday stuff that we can find anywhere. You can get base layers at Ross or TJ Maxx, at Walmart. You can go to REI, just pretty much anywhere that sells clothing, outdoor clothing in particular, you're going to be able to find this. So this is one that I use quite frequently, especially if I'm just like out running and it's a little chilly. It's kind of chilly, but not super cold. I'll just put this on with a pair of yoga pants that are not made out of cotton. So you can just use, like a long sleeve shirt that's not made of cotton, and a pair of yoga pants also that are not made of cotton. Or I also have these when I head out into the mountains for snowshoeing or anything like that, that they're a little bit more specific to that type of activity. Most of the time, I just wear a pair of non-cotton yoga pants and a non-cotton long sleeve shirt for my base layer. Our second layer, the middle layer, which is going to help keep that heat, in or keep that heat inside and help us regulate our body temperature is going to look different depending again on how cold it is outside. So again, if it's like just chilly outside and there's no rain or anything like that, and my base layer is enough, my mid layer is just going to be a vest. And this is like a down material type vest that I have here. And that's just if I don't need to cover my arms up. I might get a little bit too hot if I have a full-on fleece jacket or down material jacket on. So a vest can be a really great middle layer depending on how cold it is. This like down type jacket will work, or for us in our climate, since we don't have tons and tons of really cold weather here, like a fleece jacket is a really excellent mid layer. So this is also a go-to that I use quite frequently when it's chilly, and I get cold easily. So when it's chilly and I feel super cold, I'll put my fleece jacket on as a mid layer. And then I would wear a pair of like sweatpants that are not cotton based. So I've got some joggers or even just some regular old sweatpants. That works as a really great mid layer for your legs. The top layer is going to be, again, your protection from the elements, the weather, rain, wind, snow. So here I've got my rain jacket. It's just a shell. A lot of like winter snow coats have both a fleece layer that's zipped into it and this outer shell layer. I have two separate ones. You can do the one jacket with the two in it, or you can have both, but this is just a rain jacket. And then, of course, and this is for super extreme situations, if it is cold enough that I would need my snow pants, I am not outside running and biking or anything like that. I'm gonna probably head up to the mountains and do some snowshoeing or some skiing or some sort of activity like that. If I have to wear my snow pants, I'm not gonna run in my snow pants. It's just not comfortable. So for those super, super crazy cold moments, my snow pants are what I'm going to wear as my outer layer to help keep me protected, my legs protected from the precipitation. Now, we talked a lot about making sure that we're covering commonly exposed areas like head, hands, feet. So we also want to make sure that we've got some gloves that we're going to wear, a hat or a headband, as well as some socks. So let's start with gloves. I have some liner gloves that I wear as like a base layer. Again, these are going to be that are next to my skin, help pull that away. I wear multiple layers of gloves because my hands get really cold and I don't like that. So if you are like, oh yeah, my hands get cold but not super cold, I don't need 3 different layers of gloves, it's absolutely your own thing. We just want to make sure that we're doing what we can to keep our hands warm and our fingers in particular. So I've got some liner gloves that I'll bring with me, and these are the gloves that I use most of the time, like just if it's chilly and my hands are cold, these are my everyday, everywhere kind of gloves. Then I have these thicker, heavier gloves here that I can slip on over my layer gloves, and these are for those days when I've got to, you got to scrape your window and it's just a little too cold, but you don't need your full on, snow playing, I'm going to go outside and build a snowman or have a snowball fight, gloves or mittens. So these I'll put over my liner gloves. And then I have these heavy duty, I'm out in the snow doing snow things where my hands are going to get wet, and I want to make sure that I protect my skin from becoming wet so that I don't end up with frostbite or any sort of other unpleasantness out in the cold. With your hands and even your feet, if you do find yourself out in the cold and your fingers are getting really cold and you aren't near where you're going to be able to get inside, taking your gloves off and putting them directly onto your skin is really helpful. Your armpits, stomach, and groin are the areas that have a lot of body heat, and so sometimes I'll be out riding my bike, my hands will get really cold, and so I'll just pull over to the side of the trail or the road and then just put them on my stomach and let them warm back up when they're so cold that they start to hurt. So if you're noticing that your fingers are getting so cold that they're starting to hurt, take a few minutes to stop, pull off your gloves, put them on your warm skin, let them get them warmed back up, and then usually when I do that, I turn around and I head back home. I feel like that's the time that I'm ready to call it a day and get back home. So that's what we can do if our fingers are getting really cold and our gloves aren't doing what we'd like. The other thing with gloves is that if we wear mittens, those keep your hands warmer than the individual finger gloves. So if you notice that your hands are always cold, even though you wear gloves, try a pair of mittens. So next, we've got socks. So just like with our base layer, we want our socks to also pull that moisture away from our body and to keep them warm. So like some wool socks will be really helpful. You can find heavy duty wool socks at Walmart. You can get them at Dick's Sporting Goods. They have different options at Ross and TJ Maxx. So making sure that you have some sort of nice wool sock that will keep your feet warm and relatively dry. And then last, for our heads. So I've got this headband that I'll wear if it's not too cold, but I want to keep my ears warm. My ears get really cold too. And so I'll wear this when I want to wear my hair up. And then I also have a beanie that I'll wear. I mostly wear beanies when I'm out doing exercising and movement out in the wilderness and even out on the streets. And so a hat, just anything that's going to completely cover your ears. One thing I do want you to keep in mind is that it's not all of the clothes that keep us warm. It's actually the air that moves in between them. And that's what keeps our body warm, is that there's some air that's allowed to circulate within that. So we don't want to be stuffed into our coats and have no sort of air movement or anything like that in between our layers. So that's why we encourage some like looser fitting. It doesn't have to be massively loose fitting, but some lightly loose fitting layers, and so that there's some amount of airflow in between each. And take extra precaution with your feet to not have your feet covered in layers and layers of socks and then stuffed into your boots or your shoes or whatever your footwear is going to be, because if there's no airflow down there, then they're not able to stay warm. So that's the explanation of layers. So should you find yourself being like, I want to get outside anyway, even though it's chilly, now hopefully you have a little bit more information on how to keep your skin warm. So as with all things wellness and health related, I want to encourage you to find things that work best for you. Everything is not for everyone. What works for one person is not necessarily going to work for the next. So give things a fair shake. If there's something that we listed that you've never tried before that you've been interested in, give it a try. If you don't like it, you don't have to keep doing that. If there are things that you know you love, return to those things. All we really want to encourage is to try and maintain some level of physical activity, even when it's cold outside, whether you're able to get out there in your layers or you have to stick around inside. I hope this is helpful. We are going to do another one of these in February, so keep your eye out for that one. Take very, very good care of yourself and have a wonderful day.